Nigeria lost one of its best visionary banker and entrepreneurs last Friday, Herbert Wigwe, the iconic leader at Access Bank and Group Chief Executive Officer of Access Holdings. Wigwe's demise via a fatal air accident in the United States is being felt not only in Nigeria but around the world. In a tweet, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said he was deeply saddened by the tragedy that killed Wigwe, his wife and son, and former chair of the Nigerian Exchange Group, Abimbola Ogunbanjo. He condoled with all the affected families, including the relatives and friends of the helicopter crew who perished, as well as the Access Bank family around the globe, including South Africa. Friends and associates of the late group CEO of Access Holdings PLC, Herbert Wigwe, trooped to his parents' house in Lagos on Monday to pay their condolences to the family of the renowned banker and philanthropist who lost his life in a tragic helicopter crash in the United States on the Friday, February 9th, 2024. Wigwe, alongside his wife, Chizoba, his first son, Chize, and former chairman of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Bimbo Ogunbanjo, all met their end in the ill-fated flight that crashed along the California-Nevada border. Among the dignitaries present at the house of the Wigwes were co-founder, Access Bank, Igboje Imokwede, chairman of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, chairman This Day Arise Media Group, Prince Nduka Obaigbena, founder of Stanbic IBTC, Atedo Peterside, Ogun State Governor, Dakpo Abiodun, Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, Chairman Yinka Folawiyo Group, Tunde Folawiyo, former Minister of Industry and Trade, Ni Adebayo, and Arise News anchor Ojope, among others. Herbert Wigwe survived by his 4 children, his 90-year-old father, Pastor Shingle Wigwe, who retired as Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority, his mother, Mrs. Wigwe, who is a nurse, and his 4 siblings. Dignitaries, including Chairman Honeywell Group, Oba Otudeko, also visited Abimbola Ogunbanjo's wife, Titi Ogunbanjo, whose birthday happened to be yesterday, February 12th. She was honored with a birthday tribute. Right, Rufai, still tributes pouring in nationally and internationally for Dr. Herbert Wigwe, for Mr. Bimbo Ogunbanjo, Mrs. Chizoba Wigwe, and Chizi Wigwe.
I mean, it's a very sad one, tributes pouring in, and it's just reflective of the mood of the nation. I'm talking about Herbert Wigwe. He touched a lot of people in so many different ways. And you know, it's when somebody passes like that, people start to recount the things, you know, that he did while he was alive. I had somebody yesterday that was speaking about the, you know, contributions made to religious organizations, his love and passion for God, and other things he did, how he mentored people, you know, how he supported a lot of people in the tech space. You know, a lot of things he had done. And it was a very somber mood there when I got there yesterday evening myself to condole. And, you know, Papa was already fast asleep then, but Mama was outside. And despite her pain, she still cared about everybody. And she was still concerned. She was still concerned, oh, people that are coming, hope they've had something to eat and all of that. And I just said to myself, that that's a mother, that despite her pain, she still watches over her everybody. And the pain is palpable. But another part we must not forget is the legacies he left behind, and the fact that we, as a tribute to him, must make those legacies work. One is the Wigwe University. The university released a statement yesterday saying that they have redoubled efforts at making it work. And I'm really excited about that. While I was there, I met the chairman of the local government where the university was in Siokbo. And I remember telling him that we must make this university work because that's the only thing. And in fact, he gave a vote of confidence. That was things that people are even on site, as like yesterday, that he ensured that people are on site before he came, and the university must work and all of that. And so I'm excited that there's a renewed effort at ensuring that there's success as regards its legacy, because we cannot all live forever. And the only thing that is different is that we don't know the time it will come. And that's where God is greater than man. You don't know when it's going to come. But the legacies we leave behind, how do we continue to strengthen and bolster it? I mean, you heard the words of Cyril Ramaphosa. That should show you that he didn't just say, oh, my wealth and my naval wealth for Nigeria alone, but it cuts across all. It cuts across all. And the African continent. So he had a far-reaching effect that was going to affect a lot of life. And that's indicative in the people and the mourners that came there yesterday. So I think we should focus on the legacies. In a bid to take position also because, he ran a business, Axis Bank has put Bolaji Agbede in there as acting CEO because the business too must also, start to thrive and all of that. So it's a very sad one, very sad one.
All right.
Well, there's a Gregorian chant, and it's a prayer. He says, Media vita in mortis sumus. He says, in the midst of life, we're in death. But who else can we look up to other than our holy God? This is a moment that calls for prayers, and all we can do as believers is to look up unto God. Thomas Campbell, 1777, also said that to live on in the hearts of those we leave behind is not to die. Thomas Campbell. Now, this is demonstrated. In the midst of life, we're in death. Nobody knows tomorrow. Accidents happen. So when we find ourselves in this kind of situation, we look up to God, we pray. Secondly, to live on in the hearts of those you leave behind is not to die. And so it has been with Herbert Wigwe, with Abimbola Ogunbanjo, and all the persons who died in that ill-fated helicopter accident. Yes, we have seen people going to visit. Tributes have been paid to him from France to South Africa. Emmanuel Macron paid tribute. Cyril Ramaphosa, president of South Africa, has also paid his tribute. We have also seen friends, associates paying their tributes, including institutions with which he was associated, including the Bank Directors Association of Nigeria, the Chartered Institute of Bankers, the National Institute of Credit Administration, and also, more importantly, the Board of Trustees of Wigwe University. Yesterday, in our conversation with Mustafa Chikeobi and founder of Stanbic IBTC, Atedo Peterside, the point was made about legacy. And it was most reassuring to hear from Fabian Ajogu, SAN, saying that indeed the legacy of the Wigwe University, one of the high points of the career of Herbert Wigwe, will be sustained and will continue in his honor, in his memory, because that was one project that was particularly dear to his heart. Yesterday I quoted Albert Pike, who said that, look, it's not what we do for ourselves that matters, but what we do for others and the world, and that is what remains and becomes immortal. Albert Pike. And that's precisely what Fabian Ajogu SAN has underscored. Again, we commiserate with the family. Now, Access Bank Holdings, we talked about succession planning yesterday. It's instructive that the stock price of Access Bank Holdings dropped by 6.26% on the hearing of the news, of the death of the group CEO of Access Holdings, which is, again, something that happens normally. Markets respond. to such shocks. But of course, the Access Bank Holdings, the group has moved very swiftly to appoint a successor in the person of Ms. Agbede. Ms. Agbede, we're told, is one of the founding directors of Access Bank in charge of business support. And she has 3 decades of experience in banking and, subject to the approval of the Central Bank of Nigeria, she has stepped in immediately as the acting CEO for Access Bank Holdings. The expectation is that would provide a sense of stability and reassure customers and investors as, Access Bank, Access Holdings, goes through this period of transition. It's truly a period of transition for the bank and for the business. Now, again, we're told that the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, NSIB, is going to collaborate with the Transportation Safety Bureau of the United States to investigate. But the investigation, before it can be concluded, will take about 3 years. Whatever the investigation tells us, what pains us, is the loss of these brightest minds, Herbert Wigwe and Abimbola, Ogunbanjo, and also, the young man, the son of Wigwe, before whom, a rich future, existed, and now that has been abbreviated. And then his darling wife, who had been, as described, as stated yesterday, a major pillar of support, for Herbert Wigwe. It's indeed a tragedy of immense proportion. But again, to live on in the hearts of those who live behind is not to die. And there is no doubt that these persons will remain immortal for as long as Wigwe University is there, for as long as Access Holdings is there, the memory will remain evergreen.
Absolutely. It's great to see his friends, people from different walks of life, show up for his family members who must be devastated following the loss of this great man, that's Dr. Herbert Wigwe, on Friday. It's great to see them turn out in their numbers to condole with his aged parents. And you cannot watch that video or that clip that was shown and not feel your heart tug at the immense loss, not just to the nation, and as we've seen from the statement by President of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, that he was also internationally recognized as a colossus. And so it's great to see that even in death, as Mr. Tedo Peterside had said, that at this point, in terms of succession planning, in terms of legacy, not just his immediate family members, but also his friends and captains of industry whom he dined with, whom he supported in business, whom he worked with, would also show up for him even more in death. It was great to see those numbers out there turn out for him, and also to Mr. Bimbo Ogunbanjo as well, and his wife and his immediate family members, to see people show up for them. I believe in times like this would talk or speak to the quality of people of friendship that one had when they were alive. And in talking about his legacy, now the onus will fall not just on their young children, but also on the people that they called friends. At this time, they must be able to stand up for them and ensure that their names continue on the sands of time, that their legacies, like we've mentioned already, the good work that he did in the area of education. The thing about Dr. Wigwe's death is the fact that it emerged just how many areas and sectors he had an impact in. It wasn't just in banking, even though banking perhaps was one of the highlights of his life in terms of his career. But there were other areas, especially in terms of human capacity development. He was passionate about this. And if you watch, a number of videos have begun to emerge about him just sitting with young people, with children, just wanting to see them become the best version of themselves. He did this for many years to the How Foundation, giving a lot of money towards building of schools. There's the Makoko project, which he partnered with his church. He was also very big on his faith. We can't forget that. And on Sunday, I had the opportunity to watch, the service at his local assembly assembly, the City of David, and the church was distraught. They just talked about his engagement, his support, his giving, his generosity, his being there, his humility, being down to earth. Because at the end of the day, these are the things that will matter. Beyond him being a boardroom titan, it is a number of lives that he will be replicated in by how well they do, and will never forget the investment of a man who believed in them enough to commit immense, a huge sum of money towards them being, becoming a better version of themselves. And so it's no little wonder then he progressed from supporting schools and building schools to establish his own, and was hoping not just to make a monument for himself, but in his words, to create a world-class institution so that young people could have the best education here in Nigeria. It's sad he's gone so soon, as well as Mr. Bimbo Ogunbanjo, but one thing we must continue to live on and remember is his legacy. He will never die. The legacy of great men never die. And that's the hope that not just his children, his parents, his siblings, but Nigeria as a whole can hold on to. Dr. Herbert Wigwe, rest in peace, and of course, Mr. Bimbola Ogunbanjo, and all those who lost their lives on Friday. Move on to our next story. Governors of the People's Democratic Party have raised alarm over the country's high cost of living and insecurity. They enjoin President Tinubu to tackle the problem decisively. Chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, Bala Mohammed of Bauchi, also called on the acting national chairman of the party, Umar Damagum, and the National Working Committee to summon all relevant meetings of the organs of the party, including the National Executive Committee meeting, to resolve the pending internal crisis of the party.
The forum passed a vote of confidence in the Iliad Amagun-led National Working Committee (NWC) of the party, and urged it to put in motion the necessary machinery for convening meetings of the appropriate organs of the party, from caucus to the National Executive Committee (NEC), as soon as possible.
All right, we've talked about the internal crisis in PDP, where they are, what's happening, what's going on. We've seen some erring members who don't seem to have been sanctioned. But Rufai, it seems like they're now working decisively to deal with these issues. Your take on this, sir?
I'm not sure they're ready to deal with their issues. As long as you don't sanction bad behavior, then nothing will happen. So the PDP is still looking like a joke largely. I mean, when I saw that list and I saw the likes of Governor Makinde there, these were those that destroyed the PDP now. Let's call it spade a spade. The likes of Governor Makinde were part of those that destroyed the PDP with their G5, and they went to join things with Wike. So today, Wike still claims he's a member of the PDP, was serving in an APC government, and he's doing everything to destroy his party from within. So when I saw the meeting, I think it's another it's another meeting to be able to coalesce. But it's not going to work because the mindset is different and the fight has not been started. This was the same Governor Makinde that a couple of months ago was saying that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar didn't call him. So what's the future of the PDP? It's shaking. And that's why they have problems everywhere. Look at in Edo State. Look at the meeting they had as regards, authenticating aspirants. Most of the aspirants walked out of the system. I'm sure Aslam Ojeswa will come and tell us more today. So I think the part of the meeting, that they talked about, that they sounded off for, that I like, was the fact that, yes, there are lots of things happening in the country as we speak, the cost of living, which is heightened by the security and economic challenges, which are valid concerns raised. And I like the fact that they came together as regards that. But as regards unity, no, there's nothing called unity in that party as we speak, not even in the remote future. I saw Governor Fubara, the embattled Governor Fubara there, that is still fighting his own fight with former Governor Wike, who's been able to rein Governor Wike in. He's shaking with one leg now. So there's large disunity, but they said a lot of things about the state of the nation and all of that, which I think is very valid. And that's why we keep calling on the government to provide solutions. And what are some of those solutions? By now, rather than the government say they want to go into mechanized farming, which might not remotely be implementable now, why don't we have tariffs on food lifted and imports? Because we need to be able to flood this market with food in such a way and act like a stopgap to the debilitating conditions of people. And secondly, I would like to ask a question as regards the state of the nation. What empirical calculation did the NLC calculate? And please, did they take in inflation into cognizance for the NLC leader to be saying that minimum wage will be 1 million naira? Did they take, I would like to see the research department of the NLC. What report did they, and what were the empirical parameters did they calculate, and they muted that figure of 1 million naira? Did they take into cognizance the attendant inflation that will bring in this country? Let's put facts on the table when we talk.
All right.
Okay, the PDP Governors Forum meeting, political parties meet, each political party has its own Governors Forum. As for the crisis within the PDP, I think that Governor Bala Mohammed, who is the chairman of that Governors Forum, addressed that issue when he said that, look, PDP is an experienced political party that has been in government, that has been tested, and that, PDP is committed to contributing to national development, even in the opposition. He also made the point that, the Governors Forum was passing a vote of confidence in the National Working Committee, and that forum also called on the National Working Committee to summon a meeting of the party. As for the crisis within the party, where politicians, whether they are of Labour Party extraction or APC extraction or the NMPP extraction, what they will tell you is that, in any political party, there are bound to be disagreements. Or they will tell you that it's a family affair and that at the end of the day, they will resolve their internal matters among themselves. Well, the PDP has an opportunity for reinvention, for putting its house in order going forward. And I'm sure it's not something on which we can educate, the likes of Bala Mohammed and the others who have been in politics for quite a while. Now, beyond that, the main focus of that meeting was talking about the situation in the country. They're saying that the federal government and the states need to work together to address the cost of living crisis in Nigeria. And that, of course, is a no-brainer. Everyone is calling for that. The Emir of Kano, only yesterday, while receiving an audience, the First Lady, Mrs. Remi Tinubu, made exactly the same point. Our government must hearken to the cries of the Nigerian people and make sure that, palliatives are provided to ameliorate the hardship that they are facing. So the PDP governors also saying the same thing, more or less reflecting the mood of the nation. Secondly, the PDP governors also talked about security, the insecurity in the country. And there is a point about state police, that it's about time the Nigerian government began to consider having state police. This has been a very controversial issue. In 2014, at the National Political Conference, it was one of the major recommendations. After initial disagreements about whether or not when that state police is created, most of the people should be indigents of the particular state, and then concerns expressed about how it could become a political tool. But what we have seen is that in the face of banditry, kidnapping, terrorism, insurgency, as some people will say, many of the states are incapacitated. The Constitution says the governor is the chief security officer in a state, but in real terms, it's the federal government that controls the security apparatus in Nigeria. So the question is, can we give more powers to the states so that we don't have a situation whereby state governments become desperate and they create vigilante groups, alternative security groups, and all of that. And I thought, the PDP governors drawing attention to the insecurity in the country was a useful intervention. In any case, what we keep saying is that the opposition parties should not exist only for the purpose of criticism. They should provide alternative views, as is the case elsewhere. If they think that government is not getting it right in this direction, then they say, well, why don't you do it like this? So that we can create a current of thought, dialogue, ideas, that will be beneficial to the entire collective. And underlining the point that the strict purpose of political parties It's not just to win power or prepare for the next election. It's also to contribute to national growth and progress through the fertilization, of the ideas space that is crucial for national development.
Yes, crucial for national development. If we must have a strong democracy, then we must have strong opposition. And this is what we're looking at the PDP to do, especially at this time when they are in the opposition. And what a number of people have criticized them for is that perhaps they are not used to being in the opposition, even though they've been for the last 8 years and counting, and have not presented that strong voice in terms of not just criticizing, as they said in their own words, but also providing alternative solutions. So if we were in government, this is what we would have done better, rather than just saying, oh, Nigeria is going to be like Venezuela very soon. We need state, okay, well, state police is a solution, while people are getting poorer. It is ideas-based criticism, constructive in its way, and not just mudslinging and insulting the other party, but also giving ideas. But beyond that, I think it's important to say that the Governor Seyi Makinde didn't just attend the meeting. He was actually the host, as it happened at the Oyo State Lodge, Government Lodge in Asokoro in Abuja. So he seems to have made his way back to the PDP following the breaking out of the G5, what we had during the election. And following that, a number of people had wondered, would the PDP be able to survive after that? Would they be able to survive after not just the G5 breaking up, some internal party members, some key stakeholders going against the party's ideals and even openly campaigning for the opposition, and come back to regroup itself, get the house in order, and be able to function, and even hopefully in the future winning elections. We've seen them lose a number of states in the last election, even with the National Assembly. Only under a decade ago, they controlled 60% of the House, but that's not the case at the moment. But is there still hope? Is this still possible? Absolutely. And it looks like the PDP has realized that they must go back to the drawing board and begin to see how they can again become a formidable party and a formidable opposition, whilst hoping that in the very near future, if they're able to come back again and become that giant party that they were in the early days of our return to democracy in Nigeria. A few things have been suggested. Number one, go back to the Constitution, a revisit of the Constitution, and ensure that they abide by that. Number two, consequences for erring members, because as long as there's impunity, then it would not give a strong message or a deterrence to anyone else to do the same. Number three, consolidate on the states where the PDP has control and lead by example. So it's not just saying that, oh, Nigerians are living in poverty. What's happening in River State? What's happening in Edo State? What's happening in the states or in Zamfara State where the PDP, it's a PDP-led state? Is there any difference from the options that they have offered? Of course, state police is not a subnational issue. It must be done at national level. But there are other simple things that can be implemented to demonstrate that they mean business and not just a talk show. It's still a long way ahead for the PDP to get its act together. But can they do that? Absolutely. But it would take resilience, and it would taking some very firm decisions and bold decisions as well from the party. But we'll wait and see what will happen in the next few months and perhaps what will happen at the Edo elections as well.